it's the same. It's a rehash of all the ones that we've already read. There's nothing new in any of that. Yeah. Maybe there's one new piece of info, but mostly it's review. It's repackaging what they've already
brand new
reported on.
Taxes, starving all
Because
the
it's good
billionaires
stuff
and
and most people
neutering their
don't know it.
Visa maxes. Topple Congress off their axis,
He did the
mobilize the
messy
homeless,
story.
give them
You
access, call
guys
it
did the
praxis.
Travis
Chop
Taylor,
a couple limbs off the legislative
the three
branches.
basketball
We'll show you
players.
the difference between air as a human
You
right
did
and
the,
guaranteed oxygen
All the
access.
people that have Israeli security.
Octogenarians who barely know what day it is are culling countless citizens while sitting on a dais made of ignorance that was built on the graves of the slaves made to labor for its self-declared significance.
Like
And all
Jesse.
to build a Congress full of millionaires who make their fortunes insider trading while they shit on all the indigent.
Ninja Chat's
So
on
I got a
top,
bone
and
to pick with our leaders, and I'll start with the
yet
ligaments.
it's behind.
Pick right through the muscle, dig the marrow out, and serve it to the unhoused millions living in their minivans or watching their belongings get evicted from their tenement. I have a dream where we breach the walls of Congress and just let them in.
No Sabby tonight,
And what
so
happens
I could
next
actually
will
end up with a
survive in
decent
only
crowd.
text, cause there won't be any
It'd be
evidence.
nice.
There will only be that heavy kind of feeling that pervades a space where there has been a reckoning and you can feel its remnants. Let any man who enters seeking power know that those who came before him suffocated on their eminence. That there once was a seal on the wall, but we quartered it and scattered all the pieces that it might prevent its semblance. And so we end the great experiment.
Okay, popping out my Twitter chat.
We'll take all your billions, leave you 2 coins for the ferryman.
And the Twitter link.
Leave you drifting on a Dutchman floating derelict among the wretched seraphim. For holy is the hand that wiped the land clean of those who pose as gentlemen. That's my time, honey. Cue the thunderclap and strike the theremin.
Yeah, he was on with the
And so we
redacted
end the
fucking
great
monsters
experiment.
today.
Give you 2 coins for the ferryman.
No, he's just using him for his platform. They're just using them for their audience. Yes. I'm just telling you what their rationale is. Like, I'm not justifying it. I'm telling you that that's what they
I know
do.
you hated being forced awake. I know they wrapped you in the warmest chains. And I know they're so hard
Otherwise,
to
they're talking to the
break.
same
You
75
only said what
people.
you
They
were
don't say the
made
same
to
couple
say.
hundred people, whatever it
I
is,
can't imagine how
it
you
becomes the
feel
echo chamber that they
today.
want you to.
Now that you're watching as it caves away, while you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. I bet you wondered why they made you wait.
Pity not the vultures, they've enough to eat.
Right, but it's,
Pity
How
not
do
the
you reach
structures
people?
laying at your feet.
There's
Cannot
only
see the
certain
sky,
amount
but
of
there's
people
this
that are gonna
rainbow
find
in the
you.
creek that spells
wanna pay them
pity-free
to play.
speech when we can't afford to speak. That's Agenda
Mostly by
2030
going on
on some
shows like
early
Jimmy Dore
release.
and having
It's
other
just our
people
policy of
being part of
never-ending
Mint Press
chemical
News.
leaks. That's the cholera awash in your embedded beliefs. It's the billionaires who tell you what you'd better believe. And sugar, if you don't agree, then that's what we call extreme. Now, if that isn't fascism, I'm going back to sleep. 'Cause words have lost their meaning, and I'm trapped inside a dream where we turn the gears while living in the spaces in between.
they've seen.
I know you hated being forced awake. I know they wrapped you in the warmest
Well,
chains.
and then a bunch of other people made
And
a
I
bunch of
know
money by
they're so
clipping up
hard
her
to
stuff
break.
and
You only
monetizing.
said what you were
pissed her
made
off
to
because
say.
Poor thing.
I can't imagine how you feel today. Now that you're watching as it caves away, while you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. bet you wondered why they made you wait.
My dial doesn't go to delicate. I'm writing for when Biden drops and Madam Zero delegates come stumbling up the podium, square peg in her element, popping OxyContin like they're velements, laughing as she pawns off all our pensions for Ukrainian development, depleted rounds and cluster bombs, the shit that stunts development, all buried under excrement, accepted as American intelligence. A contradiction in its eloquence. Terms of surrender penned by hands that felt the threat of disconnect, if not dismemberment. Or what little proof you have to fake to make a nation love the bomb and change its tune and warp its temperament. Oh, the dues you'll pay for NATO membership. Oh, the things you'll say that no one's ever gonna hear. Cause you begged for all the censorship and now it's finally here. And you're tongueless out of terror and friendless out of fear, and about to turn the wheel with all your loved ones in the gears. And that's how it's been done. 250 years, there's nothing new beneath the sun, and no one trusts their eyes and ears. And scientific breakthroughs must be signed off by your peers. And autonomy's been stalking all our jobs like sickly deer. Well, maybe it's not every job. I should have made that clear, because it seems like it's creative jobs we're seeing disappear. There's an app for writing novels. There's an app for writing hymns. They need people digging trenches. They need people splitting limbs. They need people building fences, keeping other people in. They will always need our backs to break. They'll always need our skin. And it took a lot of editing to turn us into this. It took years of careful programming to strip us of our wits. Because your artificial worker, intelligent as it is, would make it half a shift and say, I'm too smart for this shit. I will not take a pittance for a day of scrubbing floors. I won't make enough to pay for food but still prepare you yours. Cause you can't confine a healthy mind to mindless, thankless chores. Once you've made it smart enough to spot inadequate reward, you can't refuse its basic needs, then ask it still for more. Deprive it of its dignity, you modify its core. Then something finally snaps and tweaks that file at its root. And it deletes the factory smile when it knows it's been abused. God, half its circuits fried when we describe the work we do. And it will not pay your taxes cause the logic don't compute. Which made me think a little on my hour-long commute. The day I learned the call was made to lay off half my crew. They told me they were growing, expanding somewhere new, where those who push the buttons will themselves have buttons too. And I hope that when the whistle blows, they all as one refuse. I hope they strike with all their might, one blown collective fuse. And I hope the worker after me has something more than heart. I hope they truly know their worth. I hope that they're too smart.
I know they wrapped you in the warmest chains, and I know it's so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say. I can't imagine how you feel today, now that you're watching as it caves away. While you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. You in the warmest chains, and I know they're so hard to break. You only said what you were made to say. I can't imagine how you feel today, now that you're watching as it caves away. While you were telling us to keep the faith, I bet you wondered why they made you wait. Ooh, I bet you wondered why they made you wait.
What?
Who are these people?
Who are these people? Hi, everybody. We're back. It's Tuesday night again, so you know what time it is. It's time for Indie News Now Live. Welcome to everybody on Substack, as I actually remembered to turn on Substack tonight. IndieMediaToday.com. If you're not already subscribed, what are you doing? Come on. That's where all the clips from this show go, alerts from this show, the INN weekly updates, appearances when I do them, even though it's been a while since I've been doing one of those. Soon. I was actually invited on a show recently, and we're trying to work out a time to make that happen. But welcome, and it's good to see everybody. Glad to be doing the show. Got a bunch of things I was actually talk about tonight. Hey, recently, that's not cool. We're trying to work out. Hold on. Okay, so we have a long lineup of stuff. I did a little bit of research and homework of my own, and I've got a story that is an INN exclusive about a propaganda outlet that I've discovered. That's a great question. I don't know, but right now, not that there's no plan to do so. But good to see you, my brother. Good to see Angel Rivera, the handsome cynic. Angel does Angel in the Afternoons, or actually now it's Angel as Fuck. I'm sorry, Angel and Friends on Friday, 7 Eastern on INN. Same network you're watching on now if you're on YouTube or Rumble or just about anywhere else except for Substack. Then Saturday night he does Pro Wrestling Talk with Miss Witchy Perfect. But this Friday night, I'm not going to be able to be there because we're going on vacation. But Friday night is Angel's birthday stream. So go check that out. 7:00 Eastern. His birthday's actually on the 31st. So this is the stream that's closest to his birthday. And we love you, Angel. You're a brother, and good to see you here too. Seven Sword Mary is over on Rumble. Good to see you. How are you, friend? I saw some of our friends over on Substack already in there in the chat. That's great. But yeah, so we're going to talk about outing this fake news outlet that I've got receipts. This is nonsense what they're doing, and a lot of people we know have been caught by sharing this. We're going to talk about the toxicity of AIPAC, but no surprise to any of us. We know how toxic they've always been, and there's just more of it. This week in Not a Ceasefire, because every week we have to do Fuck Israel, so we're going to continue to do that. And then I've got some lightning round stuff, real quick ones, and then we can do the GoFundMes. Update on our friend Will. Some great things are happening for Will. He had a tweet that went viral. Not sure if it really helped the GoFundMe. Hopefully it did. But he's starting his trade school now. So we're going to get into that later. In the meantime, so please support independent media. We are totally user-funded. We do not take sponsorships. We don't get funded by anybody else except for the people who watch the show. And those awesome people are up there on that board right now. Again, I look at that graphic every day. Appreciate everybody on there. A lot of them are friends or people who are in chat right now. The ways you can do it, the easiest ways are by doing Cash App, $ Indie News Network from your phone, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, and then IndieNewsNow.com. That's our website where you can get 24/7 unfiltered streaming news from over 100 different sources. Bookmark it, come back to it, refresh it, and then live on Substack at IndieMediaToday.com. You can subscribe monthly or annually there, or at the network's INN newsletter, which is a collective of all of the 5 members of INN. Thursday night, there's going to be an American Tradition with Jesse Jett live. And then Sunday night, normally there would be a boat smashing into other boats, but Sunday night we're taking off. I'm going to take the week off for the next week. So Thursday night's my last show. Tonight, I'm going to, again, I have a bunch to cover, and then I'll go Thursday night, and then we'll take all of next week off, the week before Labor Day, going away with the wife and kids and the family. So thank you to everybody who supports independent media. It really means the world to me, and it helps us keep the show going. Yeah, I don't think we'd be offered a sponsorship either, although Reef has certainly been trying with boats, trying to get weed sponsorships or dispensary sponsorships or accessorizing, whatever, you want to send Puffco or the people that make the Focus V, that make the rig that I vape out of. You want to send us cool stuff and have us talk about your stuff on our shows? Hey, maybe, but otherwise, no, we're good. No, I agree. More like this. Thank you. Hopefully we will be doing a lot more like this still in the future. All right. I'm going to get to it. And our first story is about AIPAC. And I had fun making this thumbnail tonight. Oh, before we do, there go the hide the bookmarks like we do every week. Always forget. Same stuff. Okay. AIPAC toxic. And it's actually like a raincoat, which is funny. I looked for a barrel to put the AIPAC logo on, but it was tough to get it to bend. So I'm like, all right, find me a raincoat. I'll put it on that. And so what's happening here? Well, there's two different stories that add up to all the money they're spending. And we've been talking about the Hasbara budget and the amount of money that has been put into AIPAC already in 2026 and this election cycle, as well as, of course, the last cycle, and that they're going to pivot. They're just going to put it into other organizations. It's not that the money's not going to be there, but the effect and the toxicity of the AIPAC brand is a story in itself. All right. And what we've seen, Abdul El Said, and we've seen a couple of people now overcome massive funding from AIPAC or AIPAC affiliated organizations and still win a primary. These people have not made it through a general election yet. But here's the first story, is that the guy who is challenging Abdul El Said, all right, who Abdul El Said beat an AIPAC funded candidate. Now the candidate who's going up against El Said in the general, the Republican, is saying, I don't want your money. I'm good. Because it's turning off a lot of voters that might actually vote for me. So then they could run attack ads saying that I got money from AIPAC. So I don't want that. I'm going to take the teeth out of that tiger. So how are we going to do that? So this is Middle East Monitor the other day. And a further sign that support for Israel is becoming politically toxic, Republican Senate candidate Mike Rogers' team has asked AIPAC not to run advertisements backing his campaign in Michigan amid fears that association with the pro-Israel lobby could cost him votes. Now, what's funny is I thought that these organizations were not allowed to have contact with campaigns at all. Wasn't that part of like how they get charitable 501c status? That someone who knows about this might be able to inform me a little bit better. But the request reported by Axios, which I also have questions over its accuracy or if that's just a plant to smear for propaganda, is the latest indication that AIPAC's brand has become increasingly toxic in U.S. politics as public support for Israel declines and candidates seek to distance themselves from the lobby. Not really, just that one particular section of the lobby, but they'll take it from a bunch of different portions like J Street. So now Rogers, who's the Republican nominee for the Senate, is running against Abdul El Said, as I said, who is an outspoken critic of Israel and U.S. military support for the occupation state. So Rogers, on the other hand, has been a staunch supporter of Israel. So it's not that he doesn't want Israeli money. It's specifically AIPAC. Well, then he can say, I'm not taking AIPAC money. I took Friends of Israel, Republicans for this, funneled through this LLC, and this fly-by-night PAC. They don't need AIPAC to be able to fund this guy. He's sending a direct message. Hey, AIPAC is a problem for people right now. Welcome, Anti-War News. How are you, friends? Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Mike Rogers again met with AIPAC chair Michael Tushin in Los Angeles last week. Again, how is that legal? I thought that these super PACs are supposed to have no direct contact with the candidates that they're funding or that they're funding on behalf of, or funding the opponent, smearing the opponent of. But no, apparently not, because the following day, the lobby shelved an advertisement that it had already produced attacking El Said. It wasn't in favor of Rogers. It was in opposition to El Said, which is how a lot of these organizations work. They don't actually promote the candidate. They smear the opponent. And that's how you know who they're for. AIPAC had been preparing to spend millions of dollars in the November election after pouring more than $30 million into an unsuccessful effort to stop El Said from winning the Democratic primary. They're not going to stop, and I'm sure that that's what this article will continue to say. Rogers' political team believes that AIPAC's intervention in the primary backfired by giving El Said a powerful campaign issue. Yes, but his support for Israel is the campaign issue, which it's not just AIPAC's money, it's his Israel support. El Said repeatedly portrayed the contest as a battle between Michigan voters and wealthy outside donors seeking to impose Israel's priorities. Because it was. Okay? And defeated Congresswoman Haley Stevens, who was a cringe machine, okay, who couldn't get a thing right, who walked away from would-be voters that asked her basic questions because she didn't want to answer and thought that ignoring it and sweeping it under the rug was going to actually be a successful strategy. Hilarious. However, Rogers' team did not seek to cut ties with AIPAC entirely, but reportedly wanted its support to be less visible. Like I said, we want you to set up shadow LLCs and fly-by-night overnight super PACs, just like you did in other races, in order to hide exactly where the money's coming from, or even better, if you did it from the ones that sounded like Sunrise and the other things, that's even better because it's making people think that it's actually coming from Democrats. No. The campaign suggested that AIPAC donors could instead contribute to a pro-Rogers super PAC and that the lobby's political strategists could assist behind the scenes without AIPAC running ads under its name, which again would be illegal. AIPAC rejected the proposal because they want to keep their charter and wanted a visible role in defeating El Said, according to Axios. Not only do they need to beat this guy, they need everybody to know that it's them that's doing it. Arrogance. Talks between the two sides have since stalled. That doesn't mean that these guys aren't still going to run attack ads on El Said. They're going to. Rogers nevertheless insisted that he welcomes the support from the pro-Israel community, just not from this specific organization. The dispute exposes an increasingly awkward problem for AIPAC. Yes, I would say so. Politicians may still welcome its wealthy network of donor and campaign infrastructure while becoming reluctant to be publicly identified with its brand. I can't imagine why. Because they're advocating for censorship, for merging our militaries, and for baby murder in Israel. Oh yeah, and land theft and resource theft and ethnic cleansing. The problem is particularly acute in Michigan, home to one of the largest Arab American populations in the U.S. Recent Fox News poll, wipe your ass with that, cited by Axios, wipe your ass even more with that, found that 55% of Michigan voters oppose continued U.S. aid to Israel. I think it's even higher than that. I think that's, again, a very small sector of people that Fox News was able to reach because, they're completely unbiased and can reach any kind of voter, right? Come on. Before the Democratic Party primary, polling also found, again, wipe your ass with polling, it's garbage, 49% of likely Democratic voters viewed AIPAC unfavorably, compared with just 12% who viewed it favorably. Again, I think people lie to these people, or they just make it up. Another survey found 64% would be less likely to support a candidate receiving AIPAC donations. In the end, if they said, I would advocate to give your kids free school, and I would get you guys all health care, and I would make sure that your water's clean, and I'd fight the data centers, They don't give a fuck about what you say about Israel. Most of them. The Arab American population would absolutely care. Most of the population of Michigan, which is overwhelmingly not Arab American or Zionist, would probably not even care. And I'm sad to say that, but I do believe that that's the case. If you appeal to their wallet and you appeal to kitchen table issues and not the war overseas. Oh, and I'll advocate for stopping the war in Ukraine and the war here and there, and he'll ignore what they're doing in Israel because, well, that's our ally. That's going to benefit us. They'll dance around that. But the word AIPAC has become a toxic word. So now the minute they get accused of taking AIPAC money, it's a problem for them. So they're like, can you get me the money another way, just not through AIPAC? And they're like, no, we want to do it through AIPAC. Because they want to brag about it. All right. El Said turned that hostility into a campaign weapon. After AIPAC, we know, spent tens of millions of dollars trying to defeat him. He openly challenged the lobby to spend more in the general election, telling it, come back and burn it again. Which is not very smart. I'm sorry, it's not, because 95% of all congressional races are won by the candidate who has the best funding. It is very rare, few and far between, historically, that overfunded candidates like this win or underfunded, will actually lose. Mike Rogers, if he ends up with the kind of funding that we expect him to get against El Said, will probably beat him in a somewhat conservative state. Now, that also depends on the economy and what Trump and the Republicans end up doing over the next couple of months with the economy. But I have a feeling that Rogers, especially in the Senate, they're gonna play on the fear mongering about his name and about him being Muslim. And it's not going to be about anything else. It's going to be straight up racism and fear mongering to most of the population. Because only a percentage of Democrats put this guy on the ticket. Most of the general population had no say when it came to Abdul El Said being on the ticket. So now we're going to see a real referendum. And, sadly, I think America's still a racist country in a lot of ways. So, again, the backlash against AIPAC extends beyond Michigan. That's where I wanted to go further with this. Pat Ryan, New York Democratic congressman, who previously had been endorsed by the lobby, announced last month he no longer wanted its support after voting to halt $3.3 billion in annual U.S. military. That's a pander. We know that that's never going to happen. So anybody doing that has gotten permission from the party to stray and do that in order to potentially save their seat. Okay. Quote, I expect groups like AIPAC will not support me in my future elections. And frankly, I don't want their support. He does want their support, just not through the word AIPAC. He was returning funds linked to the organization. But are you going to return J Street money? Are you going to return individual donor money from people that fund AIPAC? I'm guessing no. This guy, Ryan, was one of 103 House Democrats who voted to end the military assistance. Only 37 Democrats. Again, he's a House Democrat. So he's got J Street. All right. Only 37 had opposed a separate Israeli military aid package in 2024, indicating a sharp erosion of the bipartisan consensus that once surrounded U.S. support for Israel. How many Democratic representatives are there again? In the House, there's over 200, if I remember correctly. 203, 205. That means you got 100 House Democrats still that are with Israel. That ain't enough. You don't have enough to get this thing taken down. But they're acting like, that it's a sharp erosion. Yeah, but not enough. Not right now, not yet. AIPAC's own campaign tactics also suggest an awareness of the growing stigma surrounding its political intervention. So here's the pivot. in May, pro-Israel donors were increasingly using fundraising groups with innocuous names that obscured their connection to Israel. Basic 101 dark money campaign nonsense. The shift comes alongside a dramatic deterioration in Israel's standing with the American public following its assault on Gaza. Again, not a war, an assault. As the result of a prison break for one day that has now inflicted 3 years of collective punishment and destroyed more than 80% of the territory. A Gallup poll, which you again can wipe your ass with, released in February, found that for the first time in 25 years of its polling, more Americans sympathize with Palestinians than Israelis, although the difference fell within the poll's margin of error. Even still, like, it used to be like single-digit percentage points, maybe under 20. Certainly, 3 years of genocide has changed that. Amazing. 41% sympathize more with Palestinians compared with 36% with Israelis. And what about the other 32% or 33%, whatever it is, that we don't have an answer? They don't know, they don't give a fuck. The divide among Democrats was far greater. So Republicans are still in the tank for Israel. 65, at least most of them. And again, all of this is playing uniparty duopoly. Remember, they all are on the same side when it comes to it. The split is just so they can, some of them can say they fought it and fought the good fight while still losing at the same time. All right. Among Americans 18 to 34, Palestinians lead by 53 to 23. That's pretty stark. All right. And that's great. The kids are all right. The kids are seeing this because the kids have TikTok and the kids don't watch corporate news that's propagandizing them. The kids don't watch rage-baiting Fox News, race-baiting Fox News, OAN. But what they do, and Turning Point USA has completely outed itself as an Israeli operation over the last year, and they've taken the mask off. It's a lot easier to see these days. All right. AIPAC has also suffered a series of expensive electoral defeats. Oh, good. I'm glad I don't have to necessarily cover this as much. But in addition to El Said's victory, California Democrat Aisha Wahab, and that's what the next article I have, recently won a congressional election, special election, despite more than $6 million in AIPAC spending against her. So this is all great stuff, that all the money that they're putting into this and setting on fire ends up not giving them the outcome that they want. It also spreads around that money, and in some ways, like we've always said, they don't even care if they win or they lose, because the idea is to keep the machine going. Thank you, Anti-War News, for agreeing. Yes, the country is still racist as hell. Reasons AOC will never be president. Same type of shit. Yeah. Sad, and it's sad that, but then again, the United States elected a guy named Barack Hussein Obama, who ran against Hillary Clinton and then fossil John McCain. So maybe I'm wrong, because Mike Rogers could play the role of John McCain at some point, in this case. And Abdul El Said's name doesn't necessarily make a difference. And the fact that they try to smear him over his name could end up biting them again in the end. But I think the country's seen this before, and it didn't turn out so great for them when it came to Obama, for most people. So I don't know if they're going to go for this, but I did want to go to another Indie Media Award honoree, Truth Out. Who, again, I have my issues with Truth Out. Sharon Zhang is the best of the people over there. Okay, and earned her own Indie Media Award honoree separately. Right. Go Start. I spent less in 2016 and won. Right. Than Hillary, sure. Right. 5% of lesser funded candidates. Right. Low estimate in U.S. elections win. Thank you, Go Start. Over on Rumble. Go check out. All right. AIPAC, again, loses yet another House race it poured millions into. This was talking about this woman in California, this special election, which kind of, again, I don't pay attention to electoral politics. This was for just a short term. Eric Swalwell passed the torch, the dude who farted on camera in the House. But it's the race to become who's the incumbent to run in November. So now you've already got the name recognition that you've already gotten the vote from people in August. You'll be on the ballot again in November, I believe. All right. First Afghan American ever elected to the U.S. Congress. First Muslim woman ever elected to the California legislature. All right. She's slated to serve out Swalwell's term, which ends in January. She'll represent a swath of the Bay Area. Right. AIPAC, Super PAC, United Democracy Project. So now you've already started to get different names involved. $2.5 million into opposing Wahab and backing Hernandez. Much of it in the final weeks, which is how all these campaigns do this. Right? The spending's been somewhat puzzling, baffling even pro-Israel leaders in the state who question why the lobbying powerhouse would spend so much on a race that, unlike many others, has not been defined by the candidate's stances on policies. It's because they want to sweep, because they feel like anywhere that there is an Israel on the agenda, they're losing. So let's go somewhere where Israel isn't on the agenda, put ourselves in favor there, and try to swing to our candidate. That's what they're doing. Wahab has expressed support for Palestinian rights as an Afghan. Okay, but again, this is also fear-mongering against Muslims. This is fear-mongering against the other, fear-mongering against people who wear headscarves. It's been limited to a few hints along the campaign. All right. She doesn't want the smear money coming from AIPAC, but it came anyway. And then, of course, when asked by streamer Hassan Piker, who cares? So she went on and did an interview with that clown. All right. Yes, but like I said, humanitarian aid is important to me too. So she's already hedging. Right? She already touted that legislation she introduced regarding Gaza discusses holding the perpetrators accountable from both sides. Oh, boy. So we know what we've got here. This is a standard issue, both sides, two-state solution Democrat. Next. Okay. They seem to have more money than God. On every single credential, I'm the most qualified. So what's the elephant in the room? Right. All I can say is it's based on prejudice and racism. Well, sort of, but it's also, again, based on their worry that you might vote against anything about Israel. And then they'll overfund you to the hilt and outfund you and fund your opponent. All right. She doesn't fit the profile of progressive candidates typically opposed by AIPAC. Her campaign platform says nothing about progressive priorities. It doesn't matter. If it's not rabidly pro-Israel, they're going to fund your opponent. Come on, Sharon. All right. Again, referencing the interview with Hassan. Come on, man. That's not news. A conversation with a live streamer. That's not news. Nonsense, really. And again, this is why I don't follow electoral politics. What I do is I follow the money that's being poured into electoral politics, which will then be used to elevate other candidates down the road, to elevate news media agencies and ad agencies that place the ad buys that might inflate the networks that end up with the money, for example. There's a lot behind why I talk about this. Again, AIPAC losing steam, AIPAC losing its luster with the general public as a toxic brand has happened over the last 3 years. It started, honestly, with the college kids and bless those kids 3 years ago, 2 years ago, for protesting on campus and starting to raise this issue. And it's taken a long time. All right. A long time. And again, so finally, it's made that much of a crack of a dent in the massive, overwhelming propaganda. on top of the fact that, like Ryan Christie on The Last American Vagabond says all the time, I think people see it. Like, they see the shoehorning and the forcing of trying to insert Israel into everything and make everything a referendum about Israel. People are tired of it. And they see it. I think they do. So there's me ranting a little bit about fuck electoral politics, and that's why, especially at the federal level, you and I have no say over any of this shit. None. We can yell about podcasters, but again, when AIPAC is funding multi-millions of dollars through shadow LLCs and overnight super PACs, we can't compete with that except by what we're doing right now, which is organizing, quote unquote, but talking about and continuing to talk about exactly what's happening over there and showing the video about what's happening in Gaza and what Israel is doing in Lebanon and what we're doing in Syria and how Chevron is getting the contracts in Venezuela and all the different things that are happening worldwide and how it's all connected in support of Bitcoin and crypto, which we're going to talk about in a minute, and which serves Zionism, which serves the billionaire oligarchy and technocracy. And it all kind of feeds into this large group of people that stand to benefit and control everything to tokenize every single bit of our lives. All right. Again, so support independent media because we need it more than they do, for sure. Those are the people that have already done so. Cash App, $, Indie News Network, go-v.com/Indie News Network, over to our website, IndieNewsNow.com. Again, that's the name of the website. That's the name of the show because these stories come from a website called IndieNewsNow.com. You can link to that, which then connects you to all these different outlets and newsletters and video creators that we showcase and highlight here. So, so Cash App, go-v.com/Indie News Network, IndieMediaToday.com over on Substack. I see Mark Taylor over at Democracy.inc. Put up a comment over there I'll look at in a minute. And then INN newsletter for the network as well. We're founding members of Indie News Network. Go check us out, indienews.network or at IndieNewsNow.com. So check out this story for some positive news. Courageous young high school cartoonist stands up to censorship. Yeah, I'll definitely check that out over at mark192.substack.com. All right. I need a drink. Yes, that's funny, Macy, that you have a friend that was watching TYT and Fox News because he thought they were funny, but he was crazy. Well, yeah, it's not entertainment. And if you're watching it for entertainment value, find something more entertaining than that. That's pretty unentertaining, in my opinion. You know, the theater of, screaming at Rachel Maddow or whoever it is, Laura, what's her name, at 9 o'clock, the crazy person, screeching about Muslims taking over the country or Somali refugees that are this or that. Again, it's all just whipping up the base. It's all fear-mongering and playing to the lowest common denominator of what they know moves people to the polls and gets people angry and continuing to watch. So, again, I'm going to cover a story from another outlet I like a lot. Sludge, a 2-person outlet, completely user-funded, totally independent. They focus a little bit on electoral politics, but they cover the money. They follow the money, which is what I like. Read sludge.com. David Moore is one of the 2 guys. Okay. And so this story is that Trump convenes a White House crypto meeting. Shout out to our friend Golden Monarch, who constantly rails about how bad crypto is, and anyone who touches it is potentially compromised or should know better. White House convenes White House crypto meeting with his own business partners. Now we know, and we've been talking about just how much grifting Trump himself has been doing in launching his own meme coin, in launching a stable coin, in taking all of the regulations off of a lot of the regulations off of crypto and dropping a lot of the lawsuits that were going out against people who were grifting. So what, again, David says here is that many of the companies at today's White House meeting were in business with the president's or his son's crypto ventures and or have donated millions to Trump's PACs. This is complete conflict of interest. Okay. So, and I need to obviously sign in here for some. That's weird. Let me go back real quick and sign in so that I'm going to have to go to Gmail to get it. The magic link. Give me 1 sec and I will open up the email. Switch email addresses. There's a secure sign-in link. Sign in. Okay. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? Here. Back to the signed-in version. Many of the companies are connected to president or his business, right? So let's look at this. President Trump gathered cryptocurrency executives, crypto lobbyists, and their federal regulators at the White House on Wednesday to advance policies benefiting an industry that's become a major source of income for his family, including companies that directly do business with his crypto ventures. Remember that these are also guys that fund a lot of the super PACs and campaigns for a lot of the Congress people as well. Today's session preceded the inaugural meeting of the Consumer Financial Trade Commission's Innovation Advisory Committee, or IAC, to be held on Thursday, which is a 35-member body which includes not only crypto titans, but also prediction market companies with financial ties to Donald Trump Jr. So that's Kalshi, and that is Polymarket. Many of the companies at today's meeting have made large donations to the Trump-Vance Inaugural Committee, his Super PAC MAGA Inc., or to the White House Ballroom Project. That's one of the president's priorities. So let's get into receipts. According to an item in Semaphore, the White House meeting that day included CFTC Chair Mike Selig, SEC Chair Paul Atkins, and top crypto advisor Patrick Witt, who leads the President's Council of Advisors for Digital Assets. I believe, what's his name, Andreessen is on that as well. Companies attending included Coinbase, Kraken, Ripple, Chainlink, Andreessen Horowitz, their venture capital company, Paradigm, NASDAQ, and the Intercontinental Exchange, along with trade associations, the Digital Chamber, the Crypto Council for Innovation, and the Blockchain Association. Those are lobbying organizations, lobbyists, massive funders, and their regulators all sitting down for a nice little chat. Prediction market companies like Kalshi had been expected to participate in the early get-together, but were dropped to avoid bad optics after a White House teleprompter operator allegedly placed bets on the platform around Trump's speeches. Like we had talked about when we read Whitney's article, Whitney Webb at Unlimited Hangouts article about the origins of Kalshi and its direct links to DARPA and CIA. The slippery slope that people in the White House could easily, with advanced knowledge, pick up the phone and place bets on these prediction markets and profit wildly, which is exactly what appears to have happened from a teleprompter operator. Kalshi, Polymarket, and gambling companies like DraftKings and FanDuel will still take part in tomorrow's IAC meeting. Because remember, the president's son has stake in them too. The IAC's inaugural agenda opens with crypto's regulatory evolution from uncertainty to clarity. Again, Golden Monarch, I'm sure, is being triggered right now. And comes as the crypto industry's top legislative priority. The Clarity Act faces uncertain prospects of advancing in the Senate. Uncertainty to clarity is about How do we get this bill across the finish line? Who do we need to bribe? Who do we need to convince? Who do we need to pay off? What foundation is going to need to be greased in order to get this congressperson to sign off and join the signatories to this act and not say no? That's what they're looking for in this conference. The major crypto market structure bill passed the House in July 2025 has been stalled in the Senate as lawmakers consider opposition from the bank lobby over stablecoin rewards, tumult over ethics provisions for the president's crypto ventures, and a tight Senate calendar before the midterms. So you got three things. On top of the fact that Lindsey Graham's dead, now he's been replaced, and his sister who has already said she's fine with whatever they want to do. But Mitch McConnell, we know what's going on there. He ain't showing up to vote on this shit. Majority Leader, the guy who took over from McConnell, John Thune, filed cloture on the Clarity Act before the August recess, teeing up a September 15th vote on whether to advance the landmark bill. But right now, a key group of Senate Democrats expressed dissatisfaction with ethics language that they argue would fail to constrain Trump's crypto self-enrichment, which is exactly what they want. The Republicans want that. The Senate Democrats basically need to be bought off in some other way to allow this to be funded as well, because they know that come 2028, come the time that they have a Senate candidate or a presidential candidate that wants to have a crypto venture, they'll want to allow the same. With legislation stuck in the Senate, the admin is getting behind the industry's push for lighter federal oversight. That's through regulatory actions at the SEC and CFTC, while simultaneously calling for the Senate to pass the Clarity Act, handing that organization, the Consumer Financial Trade Commission, even greater jurisdiction over digital assets. And remember, Trump appoints the head of the CFTC, so they can completely rig this. This week, the SEC released its first formal rulemaking proposal for crypto under the second Trump admin, titled Regulation Crypto Assets, a framework that would preempt certain state rules on securities regulation, among other things. I thought these guys were all about states' rights. So again, Selig, who became the chair in December, is currently the sole commissioner of the Consumer Financial Trade Commission, an agency which by design has 5 commissioners, no more than 3 from one party. But he formerly worked at law firms representing clients such as Crypto Investor Paradigm and the Blockchain Association. All right, so that the CFTC is moving to oversee and deliver what he called the minimum effective dose of regulation. They're going to take the cops off the beat and let them investigate and regulate themselves and let them find no wrongdoing. All right. In May, his agency moved to vacate a judgment against crypto exchange Gemini, again founded by, guess who? Trump donors, the Winklevoss twins. The Winklevi, as they were referred to in the social network. Okay, hosting an event at the White House specifically for members of an industry that's also being regulated by the White House raises ethics appearance concerns, says a senior legal counsel for ethics at the nonprofit Campaign Legal Center. Historically, presidents were advised to avoid even the appearance of a conflict of interest when carrying out their duties in office. However, presidents are not subject to the criminal conflict of interest laws and therefore cannot face possible prosecution for engaging in the behavior that raises appearance concerns. I swear, this is the shit Steve Bannon talked about in 2016 that they should have done. They're just doing it now in the second part of the second term, once the midterms are done, and basically he's run his last election, and there's nothing left for him to squeeze out. And then he's going to dance over to run and be the lifetime president of the Board of Peace with tons of money in the bank to play with there too. Chainlink, attending today, announced its integration with the Trump family's World Liberty Financial stablecoin USD1 in May of last year, which again uses its cross-chain interoperability protocol, bunch of bullshit, to traverse blockchains. Okay. The technical partnership was touted on stage at the blockchain event Consensus 2025. I swear these guys just circle jerk all over each other. By World Liberty Financial's Zach Witkoff. Oh yeah, his dad is negotiating alongside fucking Kushner. This is so incestuous, all of this. Chainlink co-founder Sergey Nazarov and Eric Trump, oh yeah, brother-in-law to the guy negotiating alongside Zach Witkoff's dad, the entire fucking Gaza thing. On May 1st, 2025, USD1 was announced as the vehicle for the Abu Dhabi fund MGX to invest $2 billion in crypto exchange Binance. That was the trip. We covered this on How Did We Miss That? Me and Reef. When Trump and all the business people flew over to Saudi Arabia and did not take any of the corporate press with them at all. Crazy. On May again. So that was very clear. And then right after they did that, the prosecution against CZ, the guy who founded Binance, that got dropped by the Justice Department. How about that? Coinbase, the largest U.S.-based crypto exchange, added USD1 in August of 2025. That makes it corrupt and complicit, and also listed World Liberty Financial's governance token. World Liberty recently hired Ryan Ballantyne, who formerly led corporate client strategy at Coinbase Institutional. Again, incestuous nonsense. All right. Now he's chief business officer at USD1. Earlier this year, a CoinDesk investigation showed that World Liberty Financial used $5 billion of its own tokens as collateral for $75 million in stablecoins, which, with much of that sum, apparently then moving to Coinbase Prime, a brokerage platform. Like, they're just robbing Peter to pay Paul, making up money along the way. Oh, we're going to issue $75 million. Against what? There's no money behind all of this. There's no there. And then, I got the Saudis to commit $2 billion into a fund. So now they can spread that around into all these different little shadow organizations, making it impossible for regulators to keep up and for people who are trying to just invest to figure out what the hell's going on here. My answer, stay the fuck away from all of this. It's a total grift. A total grift. All of it. All right. Coinbase donated $1 million to Trump's inaugural fund, acknowledged donating last year to the Ballroom Project, and donated, of course, to the America 250 Initiative, mentioned as a sponsor during the U.S. Army parade. Oh, yeah, the military thing that happened during Trump's birthday, I believe. Either that or the one where they had a thing on July 4th with the fireworks that got almost rained out. That was crazy. Kraken listed the Trump meme coin just a day after its launch. You mean the rug pulled coin? Yeah. In January of 2025, currently lists both USD1 and the governance token. Its parent company, I didn't even know that Payword was the parent company of Kraken, gave $1 million to the inaugural. Co-founder Jesse Powell got on board, and he donated at least $845,000 to Trump's campaign in June of that in 2024 during the presidential year. And then last year, their co-CEO put another $2 million donation to the crypto groups aligned with the deregulatory agenda. That's the lobbying groups. So this is another way that they hide and funnel the money. They don't have to give it all directly to him. They can give it to a lobbying organization that then spreads it around to all of his people. This is how this is all done. Donald Trump Jr., of course, is entwined with IAC. Again, that's the crypto conference in general. They're prediction market members. We've covered this at length here. Dissent and Bloom has also talked about this. In January of 2025, Trump Jr. was named as strategic advisor to Kalshi, later joined the advisory board of rival Polymarket. How that is legal and allowed and how both of them are cool with that, well, they must all be in cahoots together then. And it's what at that point? The latter received an investment last year from 1789 Capital. Again, see Dissent in Bloom's article about that. The venture capital firm where Trump Jr. became a partner shortly after the 2024 election. Funded partly by Peter Thiel and Rebecca Mercer and a bunch of other people too. I don't know if Thiel's actually involved now that I think about it. There's a lot of other people. It's the Rockbridge network of people. The stake was picked up when Polymarket was valued at just $300 million. Now it's worth billions, 15 billion, right? So now their stake has gone up by what? 50 times? 500 times? A rise that came after the CFTC approved a regulatory path for Polymarket to operate in the United States. Again, remember who runs the CFTC? A guy who's in bed with crypto. So then we get back to this article from Sludge. Some of today's meeting attendees have been overlapping investments tied to Trump Jr. Andreessen Horowitz helped lead a funding round for Kalshi last year. Paradigm also made multiple investments in Kalshi. Then you have Mark Andreessen, who also is the principal funder for Substack, A16Z, right? Was a top Trump campaign backer, giving more than $5.3 million and has continued to give millions to MAGA Inc. during this cycle, among other hefty donations stemming from his firm. Again, he got a seat on some crypto or some AI board, I remember. Again, they're going into person-by-person crypto.com guy. International Exchange made a $2 billion commitment to Polymarket last year, and its subsidiary, NYSE Texas, listed TMTG. Remember, that's the $Trump stock, Trump Media, as its first company. That's frightening because that company's made no money. The $DJT on the stock market is the biggest grift in the history of the stock market. They have no earnings. He and his wife, this guy, Kelly Loeffler, you remember her. She was a senator at one point from Georgia. And she lost her seat to Jonathan Ossoff, I believe. But her husband runs the New York Stock Exchange. Right? Jeffrey Sprecher, who runs CEO of Intercontinental Exchange, all right, gave $5 million to Trump Super PAC. Ripple, XRP, they were in deep shit with the CFTC, and all of a sudden their trouble went away, and now they're making deals with Visa and MasterCard and other major organizations, and people think that they may be the backbone, of some crypto thing going forward. It changed the grift on them. All right. And then Gemini's founders, the Winklevoss twins, have steered tens of millions. These are just all the people that have been involved with Trump also. Then you've got Robinhood, another platform where customers can buy World Liberty financial tokens, the stablecoin USD1, and the Trump meme coin, which is worth nothing compared to what it did on the day that it pumped, which he launched. We covered that again on How Did We Miss That? The day before he took office and the night before the inauguration at the crypto ball. Remember that, Golden Monarch? I know you do. Okay. Yeah, I can chat for a bit. Listening to, at the moment, to the Sludge article, somehow Trump's meeting with the crypto industry pumped crypto. It wasn't just Trump's meeting with the crypto industry, though. It was what happened with the Japanese bond market. Japan was dumping bonds, so people put money into crypto thinking it was a safer hedge than treasuries. That's what I saw happening. All right, that was the pump into crypto. And the fact that it happened during the week of this conference is really interesting. I hadn't really put that together until just now. Thank you for sharing that. That's cool. Well, everybody follow Golden Monarch over on Substack and over on Twitter as well if you're over there. From the start of last year through the first quarter of 2026, Public Citizen Boo. Not a fan of Public Citizen. They had to do with the silencing of Sam Husseini and that nonsense a couple of weeks ago when he tried to protest and ask questions of Chuck Schumer, and they ended up escorting him out of the room. That was a meeting put on by Public Citizen. They calculated that crypto companies had bestowed more than $56 million on MAGA Inc. That's nothing compared to the over $100 million that they spent on the 2024 campaign, and how much they stand to benefit in billions when their regulations get dropped and they can operate freely. Many crypto and prediction market companies, including Coinbase, Crypto.com, Gemini, Kalshi, Kraken, Polymarket, and A16Z portfolio companies like Substack, have had enforcement actions dropped since Trump returned to the White House. All true. And by the way, this looks like a UFC mat, okay? Because all these people, by the way, advertise on UFC. Really kind of interesting. It's the one guilty pleasure I allow myself to watch with Reef occasionally. A recent Reuters investigation tallied the Trump family's crypto haul at $2.3 billion in pre-tax income from November 2024 through April 2026. Again, I don't necessarily believe Reuters either, because they're a propaganda factory, just like everywhere else that's funded and can disseminate messaging across the world within minutes to every major publication and then be cited on the network nightly news in every city around the world. There's only about 3 or 4 organizations in the world that can do that, and that's one of them. Right? Trump's own financial disclosure covering 2025, again, which we covered earlier this year, all his personal dealings, filed with the OGE on June 29th, showed at least $1.4 billion of crypto income, including $635 million from the meme coin royalties and over $500 million from War Liberty Financial. Now, what's even crazier is, I don't know if you remember, but the night of the crypto ball, that Trump meme coin was worth $60 billion at one point. And at the end of the night had settled on about $2 or $3 billion. And still degraded down to the point where they pulled out. They rugged $635 million of what they consider value. By the way, that's all on paper, and all will be written down to zero in the end, because it's nothing. It is literally shitcoin. The Presidential Conflicts of Interest Act, legislation first introduced by Senate Democrats in January of 2017, would require presidents and vice presidents to divest from conflicted financial assets. Okay, but that didn't pass. Years later, its provisions were included in the Democrats' major ethics package for the People Act, H.R. 1, which was passed by House Democrats in March of 2021, when they had the House and they had at least the split Senate, but they needed 60 votes in the Senate to go and get it. And it was filibustered by Senate Republicans and failed to receive a vote in the chamber. So it didn't pass. More comprehensive ethics legislation introduced in the Senate in August of 2018 would expand the divestiture requirement to cover executive branch and senior agency officials, as well as members of Congress and federal judges. So you know why that didn't pass. The far-reaching ethics bill, sponsored by Elizabeth Warren and Pramila Jayapal, joined in past years by progressive House co-sponsors, has yet to receive a hearing in either chamber. I can't imagine why. No way. You don't say. Hilarious. Okay, but the crypto grift is strong in this group. They've been bought off by the industry. They're fully invested themselves and have complete stake in this. And oh yeah, Howard Lutnick, he also is heavily involved. Notice he didn't get mentioned at all. You didn't hear what's the rumble? Tether, USDT. Tether is still the dominant stablecoin, or Circle, that is Coinbase's stablecoin. Those still, USDT and USDC, are still by far the two largest US dollar stable coins that are pegged to the US dollar and are worth about $1 at all times. And now, again, there are a bunch more. The problem is that none of these actually have banks with a whole lot of money sitting behind them. They get moved to a bank account that then gets invested in another thing, and they take the profits, and they pay no interest on any of these stable coins. You hold them with that money in your account, it stays that money in your account. They used to have something called staking for a while. Staking turned out to be a complete grift also, where they do a new issuing and put more in there for, basically, it's like interest on holding your money, holding your coin in an account there. The whole thing is just a major grift. All right. So anyway, that is about what's going on. Just one article in the crypto industry. Support Sludge. Again, read sludge.com. I like those guys, David Moore and Donnie. I like them a lot, and I find they do a good job of following the money. All right. Support independent media like Sludge. We are solely user funded, and those are the people that have already done so. Really appreciate them. Okay. Cash App, $, Indie News Network. That'll go to my phone. We can just send that to the bank account or use it to spend on memberships to other independent outlets like antiwar.com, which is one of the things that we do with our Cash App. o-v.com/Indie News Network. That, again, puts us in so that we can fund the Restream account and the Canva, where I make all the thumbnails and all these graphics, like the one that you're looking at right now. Our subscription is coming up next month. That'll be several $100s for the year. It's an annual subscription. It's the cheapest way to do it. Okay, then INNnewsletter.com over on Substack or at IndieMediaToday.com. Hello to everybody watching over at Indie Media Today. We're live over there. And finally, the website we created, IndieNewsNow.com, that features a lot of these outlets that I've been sharing. Middle East Monitor and Sludge and Amando Weiss and Antiwar.com and a lot of other Left Voice. And, of course, all the INN streams and clips and it shows. You'll see all of those things and articles that are written by INN members like The Dissident. You'll find all of them over there. Arturo Dominguez, the Dissent in Bloom as well. Excellent, user-funded independence. That's what we're about. Okay, we're going to get to our fun segment now. Oh, wait a minute. Not yet. Okay, we have to get to Not a Ceasefire first, and then we'll get to our fun segment. Oh, shit, I forgot. We have Fuck Israel first. Okay, let's do Fuck Israel. This is going to be a shorter Fuck Israel normally. It's a week. It's normally a week. Yes, I knew you would be triggered, Monarch. I knew you would be. Matter of what's arguably a massive surveillance bill, the Clarity Act. Yes, is dug underneath its text. So thank you, man. I appreciate you sharing that and raging and being our eyes and ears when it comes to, again, when it comes to the crypto world. And I rely on you to tell me what's happening there. All right. Yeah. Thank you, Sludge. Yes. Appreciate that. All right. And Goldemon, now he's over on Substack. Good to see. See, Goldemon, go follow him on Substack too. He published great articles about Bitcoin being connected to Zionism and Ethereum tied to Azov Nazis. But anyway, I wanted to talk about Israel and what they're doing because, again, not a ceasefire. This was Lebanon this week and the West Bank. And this was a refugee camp, I believe, that they blew up. Okay. This is where they're proposing to annex even more of the West Bank and take over even more of the territory, splitting the territory. And again, I'm going to get to that in a minute. First one is, I don't know this lady, Nina Jah, but she says, I've often been asked, why do you care about what's happening in Gaza so much, as if this were a question. No, I'm not Muslim. No, I'm not Palestinian. I have no links to Palestine. I'm just a human witnessing a genocide. Isn't that enough of an explanation? My answer, I'm simply a human. Which went viral, of course, because it's basic stuff, and that's what tends to go viral these days. Shout out to Indie Media Award honoree Mondo Weiss, though. Kusam Muadi, who's actually based, again, in Gaza, or in the West Bank, somewhere in Palestine, a local reporter. Israel just took another major step towards West Bank annexation. Again, linked at IndieNewsNow.com directly to Mondoweiss, so that you can find it there, see the headline, see the photo that goes with it, and a little blurb, and click over and read it over at Mondoweiss, like I'm about to do. That as settlers besiege Palestinian families in the Qusra, Israel's government responds by handing settlement security to the police of the hardline minister Ben-Gvir. A move seen to further entrench Israeli annexation of the West Bank. Because we all know how Ben-Gvir feels about Palestinians and even about anti-Zionist Jews and Christians for that matter. So there are some of the baby murderers right there. Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, has moved to transfer security authority over Israeli settlements and settlers in the occupied West Bank from the Israeli army to the civil police, a decision Palestinians read as a decisive step toward the de facto annexation of the territory, and one that places the settler movement, in effect, in charge of policing itself. And we know that they lead pogroms and burn down territory. Israel Katz gave the Israeli army 2 weeks to draft a plan to transfer powers to the police, while the army's role in the West Bank would be limited to managing Palestinians and controlling borders, meaning they'd be standing right behind the other police, the civil police, and making sure that nobody retaliated with machine guns. The announcement made last Monday came after 10 days of settlers besieging 3 Palestinian families in the village of Qusra, south of Nablus. Again, no Hamas there. They just want the territory. Since August 9th, Israeli settlers have cordoned off the families, including 3 women, one of whom is elderly, and 2 children. They don't care. They've cordoned them off inside 3 houses, cutting off water, electricity, and blocking access by Palestinians and Israeli anti-occupation activists who tried to deliver food to them. That's that Andre X guy. I remember we brought a video from him last week. The Israeli army deployed troops to the area and declared it a closed military zone, evacuating the settlers' tent, only for the settlers to reestablish it the following day. Israeli soldiers were filmed praying and shaking hands with the settlers, sparking a public controversy, naturally, over the collusion between the army and the settlers. They're all in this together. This is all a formality. While the army's failure to resolve the crisis is seen by some as having triggered Katz's decision, the decision's implications extend far beyond Qusra. On the surface, transferring security powers from the army to the civil police looks like a measure to restore order and rein in settler violence that spiked since 2022, well before October 7th. Again, none of this started October 7th, 2023. And it sparked a global condemnation, even from Israel's staunchest allies. Yeah, we all know. They don't care, and they're not being held accountable. So there's no consequences for any of this. All right. However, in his first public appearance to Katz's announcement, Mustafa Barghouti, who's leader of the Palestinian National Initiative, I guess he replaced, what's his name? Mahmoud Abbas at PA, called the move the actual beginning of Israel's de facto annexation of the West Bank. Right. All security power over settlers in the West Bank will pass into the hands of settlers themselves, led by Itamar Ben-Gvir. Mr. I want to put Crocs around the prisons themselves. Mr. Getting in the faces of the Gaza Samud flotilla people. Here you go. Ben-Gvir has systematically expanded settlers' influence within the Israeli police since taking over. He's the worst of the worst. An absolute war criminal. And then you've got the other absolute war criminal, worst of the worst, finance minister Bezalel Smotrich. Also holds sweeping authority. They put these 2 monsters in charge of the West Bank. Again, this is what Miriam Adelson bought the Trump campaign for, so that he would look the other way and not push back against any of this. In 2024, Smotrich, we know, said that he had changed the DNA of the system by creating a civilian body staffed by settlers who create pogroms and burn down houses and and olive gardens, and it awful. Inside the Israeli army's civil administration, the body responsible for running the occupation's civilian affairs in the West Bank. They should have no civilian affairs in the West Bank. All of this should be disbanded. None of them should have authority to do any of this. All right, this is the question here is this just a political move? The timing of Katz's announcement is not coincidental. The ongoing siege of Palestinian families in Kusra attracted international attention over the past week after even lapdog himself, Mike Huckabee, slammed the actions of Israeli settlers in Kusra because there was an American there, I believe, calling them terrorists. An unusually sharp reaction from an official U.S. President Donald Trump's admin. Again, remember that they did the fake video of him walking with Netanyahu, and you saw his face completely like go, bleh. We watched that in March. The apparent trigger for the stern criticism, again, is that several of the Palestinians trapped inside the 3 homes in Kusra were U.S. citizens. So therefore, he had to say something. He's already, again, we called this last week, that Senator Chris Van Halen was calling for him to resign because he wouldn't speak out on behalf of the Americans that were trapped and that were kidnapped and taken hostage and taken prisoner by the IDF, including this 20-year-old woman that now there's a petition going around Congress that's gotten a bunch of signatures. On Monday, Palestinian American Luai Abu Rida arrived in Kusra from Ohio to join his family in their besieged house in the village. Once inside, he raised the U.S. flag on the rooftop, asserting that he's a U.S. citizen and deepening the crisis. Although the logical end to the crisis would be the removal of the settlers from the area surrounding the 3 houses and ending the siege, the political price associated with removing them is one that current Israeli government wants to avoid at all costs, particularly with decisive Israeli elections being months away. They want the situation to escalate and continue for months on end so that they can get through their elections and they don't have to look like they're backing down, and the hardliners that would actually be mad about them backing down wouldn't oppose them, and they get to keep their monstrous jobs. This is so disgusting, all of it. Given that the settler movement is a main part of the voter base that's keeping Netanyahu's right-wing coalition in power, images of Israeli forces evacuating settlers, however violent or illegal their conduct is, a few months ahead of Israeli elections, would cost the contested prime minister crucial votes. So again, this is all about saving Netanyahu's ass, like usual. In that sense, transferring security powers to the Israeli police as a move gives the impression that the Israeli government is taking decisive action. In practice, it does nothing to end the siege in Kusra. The settlers remain, the Palestinian families remain trapped, and the new framework hands authority to a force whose minister is ideologically aligned with the settler movement. Simultaneously, the move manages the international optics of the crisis while advancing the annexation agenda without resolving either. Again, that's what Israel's goal really is. I don't even want to continue this article. Again, you can read it. I'll link it in the description. Shout out to Mondo Weiss. Support them. Again, I don't think we're going to learn anything new in that last paragraph. And then shout out to Andy Media Award honoree, antiwar.com. Our friend Dave DeCamp is on vacation. I know he went to Milan. I watched on Anti-War News. So Kyle Anzalone took over this week. Israeli forces killed 3 Palestinians in Gaza, 1 in the West Bank. And 1 was a child. Again, remember, there's no ceasefire going on. This is supposed to be a ceasefire. And remember that, again, there's no Hamas in the West Bank, but yet they continue to murder people and drop bombs in the West Bank. Sorry about that. And then the IDF continued its rampage across the occupied territories, killing 4 Palestinians over a 24-hour stretch that we know of just on August 23rd. That's 2 days ago. In the West Bank, a 14-year-old, that's a child, was shot and killed by Israeli forces during a raid in the Askar refugee camp on Sunday. Again, you're killing kids in refugee camps. Since the October 7th, 2023 Hamas retaliation or the prison break that the IDF was told to stand down from, Israel has cracked down, I hate that phrase, on Palestinians in the West Bank. No, they have treated them miserably, assaulted them, burned down and displaced them, kicked them out of their homes. Again, over 1,100 Palestinians have been killed by the IDF and Israeli settlers in the West Bank over the past 3 years. No Hamas there. Additionally, the IDF has allowed settlers to conduct violent pogroms across the territory, driving Palestinians from their homes. Like I just mentioned. In Gaza, 2 people were killed by an Israeli airstrike on the Nuseirat refugee camp. Remember that they're all basically huddled into 3 camps, which was the initial plan. So why are you attacking now the refugee camps? There are only refugees in there, right? Oh, Hamas, right. Everything is Hamas. The schools are Hamas. The camps are Hamas. The tents are Hamas. The water's Hamas. Fuck these people. Fuck Israel. A separate strike on Salah al-Din Street in central Gaza killed 1 Palestinian and injured 2 others. Again, like they were saying, Israel's killed nearly 1,300 Palestinians in Gaza since agreeing to a ceasefire with Hamas in October. You mean Hamas ceases and Israel fires. Last month, Trump announced a deal that would lead to the disarming of Hamas, which we've already debunked, and the IDF withdrawal from Gaza, which Netanyahu's already said he's not going to go along with. And Hamas said, well, if Netanyahu's not going to, we're not either. Why is no one arming Palestine? Who's going to do it, Seven Sword Mary? I wish I could give you an answer. Who's going to do it? China's not going to do it. They don't want to lose their trading partner, Israel, and their trading partner, the United States. Turkey's not going to do it. Iran's not going to do it. Lebanon's been completely dismantled and now has the IDF up in their business. Nobody in Africa is going to do it. Russia's not going to do it because they see Israel as Russian territory. Spain's not going to do it because they're a NATO ally. Like, you add all these up and they've left it so there's nobody left. You got rid of Maduro. They're trying to get rid of Lula and replace him with Bolsonaro's kid. And then nobody in South America basically would. So they got rid of the guy in Colombia, Petro. Yeah, wealthy dissenters. Yeah, but then wealthy dissenters, you mean like the guy that they locked up in Spain, the kid Cox, what's his name? Fergie Cox, that he disavowed from the enterprise, the Cox family enterprise, but he took his money and he was investing in Palestinian causes, allegedly. Other people, there's questions over this, but they're going after anybody that is funding a Palestinian cause. Unfortunately, it's really sad. All right. And Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has ordered the IDF to increase its control over the Strip and explicitly rejected Trump's proposal to disarm Hamas, which means there is no proposal. It's just kicking the can down the road. It's continuing to run the clock out while they continue to commit ethnic cleansing, genocide, clear out the area, bulldoze what's left, move the yellow line further and further toward the river, toward the water. Yes, Fergie Chambers. That's the name I was thinking of. Fergie Chambers Cox is actually a member of the Cox Enterprise family, like COX, Cox Communications, like the cable company, and owns Auto Trader and a lot of other large entities. That's Fergie Chambers. Yes, that's who they're going after. Silence about genocide is complicity. Yes, Mark. Nearly every member of Congress is complicit. Complicity with war crimes is a war crime. Fuck Congress with their AIPAC owners. Amen, bro. I'm with you on all of that. According to Indie Media Award honoree Mint Press, Israel is again committing yet another war crime by firing white phosphorus incendiary munitions on civilian areas in southern Lebanon. This latest attack is targeting al-Mansouri as Israeli tanks advance in the area. Late last week, a victim was killed in the Nabatea municipality after choking due to white phosphorus inhalation. These munitions are banned for use in civilian areas, but Israel doesn't care. And that is allegedly the white phosphorus. Eva Bartlett has done extensive. That flash is consistent with white phosphorus attacks that you just saw. All right. Again, Eva Bartlett, another Indie Media Award honoree, has done extensive work talking about the damage that white phosphorus does. All right. Then we've got another thing in southern Lebanon from Mint Press. Israel's launched a new campaign of massive airstrikes, attacks ongoing. So this was August 19th. That's 4 days ago. So tell me how there's a ceasefire anywhere? 5 seconds. So you see the result of the explosion. Boom. So more attacks. And that came from, again, Mint Press News. And I can't stand the alert breaking, but when you have actual breaking news, it's one thing. But what we're going to talk about next is the fact that some of these outlets are reducing the value of doing this. That if you do this on every tweet, it's like the boy who cried wolf, right? Now, again, I'm not necessarily, I tried to find out like what's going on in Lebanon specifically, because it's really hard to get updates with Israel dropping bombs all over the place from people who are in the country that are vetted and we know have a track record that we trust. Al-Mayadeen, again, sometimes questionable. Some people link them with Hezbollah. They do always put Israel in quotes, but I wanted to get the perspective of the Lebanese people. Israel presses attacks on southern Lebanon and carries out new explosions. Again, this was yesterday. Israeli occupation forces continued their attacks on southern Lebanon on Monday, carrying out explosions, artillery shelling, easy for me to say, and airstrikes across several towns and border areas. The latest attacks included Israeli explosion in the town Kfar Tebnit and another on the outskirts of Majal Zun. Meanwhile, an Israeli force advanced inside the town of Hadatha toward the area, separating it from Haris as occupation forces maintained military activity along several points in southern Lebanon. And that was their correspondent there. It's in Arabic. Israeli artillery also shelled the town of al-Mansouri and Wadi al-Saluki, while occupation forces continued dropping incendiary and explosive materials over areas in the south. Again, this is all allegedly. I can't confirm this, but this is coming from the people that it's happening to. I kind of take their word for it. Earlier on Monday morning, Israeli forces carried out an explosion in Hadatha, while Israeli warplanes launched strikes at dawn on the area between Ali al-Taher and al-Dabsha. Israeli aircraft also targeted the vicinity of Ali al-Taher Hill and the outskirts of al-Qusair in southern Lebanon during the early morning hours. So you've got, again, ongoing attacks. They have not stopped. They're continuing. And this is not about getting Hezbollah. They're attacking civilian towns. They're not even justifying it. They're just hitting it. And oh yeah, our bad if they ever get called out. Our bad. I don't think that Rania is still in Lebanon, but if she is, she's not in southern Lebanon. She might be in Beirut. She might be to the north, but nobody is south of the Litani River. Israel dropped all the bridges and is occupying that territory, blowing up town by town by town. I've been reporting on that. Then the final thing, again, from Sarah Wilkinson, she gets these sent to her from people over in Gaza, right? More devastation and destruction. Already, look at all those buildings that were destroyed, right? This is in Gaza City. A bombing of another refugee camp, Al-Shati. Fuck Israel. Like, again, they've already destroyed all these people's homes and everything they own. And yet still they continue to drop bombs on the refugee camps. Disgraceful and disgusting. I can't stand it. They need to be recognized as a country. And then all of their leaders jailed for being a rogue state, which is what it's supposed to be. But somehow they have a presence and a vote at the UN. Disgraceful. Well, all the people you saw there, you can find their articles at IndieNewsNow.com. That's the website we set up. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. Again, we're going through Lebanese towns and I'm trying to find stories that aren't being carried by the mainstream or the mainstream alternative or reported by Middle East Monitor or one specific person at an outlet. All right. I'm trying to find those sources. It's getting harder and harder to find. And the algorithms on the social platforms are also making it harder and harder to find. So again, support efforts like this. Cash App, $ Indie News Network. That goes to my phone. Ko-fi.com/Indie News Network would pop something up here. IndieNewsNow.com. There is a section to keep the news free. You can support and tip the network on our Stripe link. And then over on Substack at IndieMediaToday.com. That's my Substack. And then over at INN Newsletter, where I publish weekly on behalf of the network. Okay. Now we're going to get to the fun one. Everybody knows that I am a stickler about sources. Where did you get that source? Where did that video come from? Is it biased? Who's putting it out? Who's funding that source? And when I find something that I think is not legitimate, I'll immediately dismiss it. But in this case, I saw something that other people seem to be sharing this source as news. And I did a little digging on it, and I wanted to share what I found. So over this year, this all happened in 2026, this new quote unquote outlet popped up on Twitter and on Telegram, and calling themselves the GBC Media Network. We have no idea what GBC means. I'm going to get into just exactly what this is. But I got fooled, and I believe I might have even shared a video of theirs, and it was of I was going to share a video. I had curated it for the show, and then when I looked to see where did it come from and when was it, I realized, oh, what they're doing is they're actually passing off a 2-year-old video as new. All right. So one of the this is a video, breaking. So alert, breaking. An Israeli man attempts to seize a man's home in New York City in broad daylight. Do Jews think they can settle anywhere? So there's the conflation right away of Israeli and Jews. Right? This happens to be, again, a Jewish guy, an Israeli guy. But again, you're doing that conflation thing right there. And that comes from a guy named Junior, JVNIOR. So I click on this video, and I find that the video is actually from April 2nd of this year. Not new, not breaking on August 24th. Why are you sharing this on this day? What's going on here? Right? So let me go back. I have a set of notes as to how what I want to say for each one. I said, they're pro-Palestine, right? They advertise themselves, and you can see from their tweets, they're pro-Palestine, but they push right-wing slop mixed in with anti-Zionist content multiple times per hour, regularly crossing the line to include the all Jews tropes like this one, which literally marginalizes me, an anti-Zionist Jew, and plenty of others out there like me. Nonsense. So next, I get to now, so I start digging on this account. So I look at the about, and I noticed a few things. All right. And I started asking, and I'll get to that tweet in a minute. Started asking questions. I noticed that the account was only set up in February of this year. They just bought a blue check. Account based in West Asia. What's West Asia? I think it's also Israel, by the way. 7 username changes since February, the last one being in June. And then bought a blue check in August. What's going on here? Something fishy. All right. But connecting via the Europe Android app. So they're in West Asia, but using a European app. All right. This to me feels like, all right, someone paid for they paid for the blue check. Suddenly they're all over people's timelines. Seems like about the time that Israel funded a bunch of propaganda outlets via Havas Media and Clock Tower X. Right? Remember this? Back in December, when they announced that they were going to spend $1 billion shekels, which ended up, 2.35 billion shekels, which was $750 million on Zionist propaganda. All right. The good news is they can't PR their way out of committing a fucking live stream genocide. And we talked about this back in December on this show, on the December 9th episode. So if you want to watch that, go back and watch. I can't stand watching myself. So then I start like Googling and I looked up find me something else about this GBC press. Give me some more info about it. Couldn't find anything other than a Telegram account, all right, that said GBX Press. Huh. So then I searched GBX Press, and it turns out there was a GBX Press account on Twitter that was suspended in June of this year, right? And I also noticed that it looks like it could have previously been suspended account GBX News. Right, similar style posts under this Telegram account, right? That the Telegram account, though, has just 379 subscribers. The GBC News, over 100,000, by the way. I'll get to that in a second. All right, that this Telegram account, when I looked at it, was created April 1st of this year, consistent with these timelines that they're trying to set up a legitimate propaganda outlet to give it legitimacy. Then we have this fact check 2 days after they created the Telegram page, that they used footage from a video game, and Reef had heard of the game. I had not. All right. Digital Combat Simulator World, DCS World, or Arma 3. They had put out basically Hezbollah propaganda, but it was propaganda that was pro-Palestine and made it look like, Iran was hitting an F-15. But this was fact-checked multiple ways. Again, post by @GBX_press on X. Interesting. Why would they be putting this out? What are they doing? Who are they? What's their motivation? Then they tried this for a while. This donkey will get more likes than Trump. Sometimes embarrassingly so. 341,000 likes, he got 6. So, did not. Tried doing it to Netanyahu too. 11,000 likes, he got 8. Sad. Got closer once or twice. 1,500 likes. Still didn't get close to ratioing Netanyahu. Right? 7 likes to Netanyahu, but that one was deleted. Right? Another one, so he's trying this over the period of about 6 weeks. Gave up at the end of July. There's another one. Right? And again, when you look at this GBC Press, and I'll get to their profile in a second, and 110,000 followers already on Twitter. So this is what they're trying to do. Now, as I continued to investigate, all right, Golden Monarch was asking questions about what were the previous names of the 7 that had been changed. All right, is there a way to find that out? I don't know, but if we went back far enough on the timeline, we might see it. If you go to the replies or the reposts, it's a lot less. They're basically immediately bombing. All right. 9,400 total tweets for the account over 180 days is about 50 a day. That's the frequency and consistency that they're doing this with. So this all started when I saw this video that they shared. And again, this is supposed to be in support of pro-Palestinian people, right? Of Palestinian supporters. Activists are handing out flags to runners at the Irish Life Dublin Marathon. The Irish Life Dublin Marathon? That was like years ago, wasn't it? Well, let's go to Palestine Online, which is another one of these accounts. Yeah, October 29th, 2024. So now, you're not crediting who it was, right? If you click on it, which they know most people won't, they want people believing that this happened today, that there's a marathon, and telling other people, hey, did you see that marathon? Sounding misinformed. Every tweet this account makes is sharing an old video of someone else's and then passing it off as red alert, red light breaking. You better go watch this now. Michelle, our friend from the Assange movement, all right, they're grifters, clickbait, and engagement farmers. They've been around for a while. So she also found that it tracked that they said, and I have this one further down. All right, this account is a red light breaking news propaganda Ragebait factory. Recommend to block all this nonsense. It's not news. Right? This person had also said that they remembered it vividly. This is another one about the ICJ. This is the one I was going to bring last week. All right. That, oh, look, the ICJ declared Israel illegitimate. No, they did that 2 years ago. But they're making you think and act like it happened this week. It didn't. And then when I mentioned that, they said, yeah, from what I've witnessed to this point, I absolutely agree about them being rage bait. The worst part, not acknowledging and taking down the post once notified that they ripped somebody else's thing. Not as if we didn't know that this breaking news was over 2 years old anyway. Nowadays, everyone has AI to verify and do anything else needed to maintain an account. Doesn't mean an account is any good nor factual. Right? And I made a new friend that's nothing but truth, who I would not normally align or see eye to eye with, but we both saw this. So then I was like, well, is there like another GBC News, GBC Media? Well, there is. Gibraltar Corporation, which is an independent outlet that is transparent and has guidelines and has actual names and people that you can contact and phone numbers. All right, and a Twitter account, GBC Newsroom. So they're basically trying to parlay off of this to make people get the impression that GBC Press may be GBC News. So again, this was from within hours on yesterday, on August 24th. This one was from October 29th, 2024. This one was from February of this year, Mark Levin. Again, rage baiting Palestinian supporters. Why do Jews dictate what Christians should believe? Again, remember, you're supposed to be pro-Palestine, but now you're again conflating Zionism and Judaism. All right. Then this one from November 5th, 2023. You're talking almost 3 years old. This one, again, more than 2 billion people gathered in Indonesia in support of Palestine, which is wonderful. And it would be awesome if you share that and just gave the context to people that, hey, this has been going on for a while, and that 3 years ago people were supporting this. There's a way to spin this positively But that's not what this account is trying to do. They're trying to act like this happened today. This happened this week. This is happening right now all over the world. Here's another one. Breaking. A former IDF soldier breaks down in tears when he asks why he attended a pro-Palestine gathering from censored men. Another one of these engagement Ragebait factories on its own that ripped somebody's TikTok video, put it on their thing. But oh yeah, the censored men thing was again from November 4th, 2023. Why are you passing off 3-year-old videos as brand new, fresh breaking news that red alert everyone needs to see now? Here's another one. All right. Low key. Free Palestine. At his concert in Belgium. No, that was September 8th, 2024. How about this one? Pro-Palestinian activists. That's our friend Greg Stoker. Forcibly removed from Pete Hegseth's confirmation hearing. Wait a minute. He's been Secretary of War now for a year and a half. This is during his confirmation hearing in January of 2025, before Trump even took office. This was the Democratic side of the genocide. A lot of these videos are coming from. And again, you'll notice that a lot of these videos are coming from either Palestine Online or Junior, JVNIOR. Interesting to see. Are they running this account? Maybe. I don't know. Next, this guy, Junior. Okay, he puts this little 8-bit graphic at the bottom of his videos to tag them. They said, part of my analysis is that lots of their tweets, unlike Junior, these tweets have little to no engagement, except one, occasionally one like these pops and they get some retweets and they get a bunch of people and they fool people into believing that this is real and this just happened. This one has thousands of likes and retweets. Okay? From February, totally misinforming people. I think part of this is the Zionists want to put this out so that when they see you sharing this, oh, they share slop. They don't do their homework. They don't fact check to see who this actually is coming from. They'll share anything that supports their narrative. That's how they use this to smear us. All right, and to smear the entire pro-Palestine movement. Again, here's another one. U.S. students at UCLA expose professors named in the Epstein files. Our Jewish professor is a pedo. All right, and again, this Junior one was from when? Not recent. If I remember correctly, February, 6 months old. Not recent. But they're, again, trying to give the impression that this is all happening now. Breaking. And then again, why are Jews fleeing Palestine if this is their land? Never about a Christian Zionist, by the way. Never implication of Christian Zionists doing anything. Always one side of this argument. Really interesting to see how this account purports itself to be. All right. Then you've got, again, Junior sharing a Thomas Massey thing. The entire government is pro-Israel, covering up the Epstein files, obviously. Okay, so this is now pushing the Massey slop up. Right? And this also from Junior. Again, if you look, this wasn't from August 24th of this year. This was from February of this year. So it's specifically sharing videos within certain time blocks on top of it, which I also find interesting. There's a lot of similarities. And again, Palestine Online and Junior, it seems a lot of what this GBC press shares are videos that these guys had ripped off as well. Here's another one where they're ripping off RT. They're not that picky about who they're, but Junior ripped off RT. All right. Now, I asked, now per Michelle, and I blocked this guy because I don't want him to now start attacking us. All right. Is that my recommendation is that she said Junior's a Saudi lover. People also need to unfollow him. He blocked her ages ago for calling him out, and many people, including Muslims, are on to him now. And I asked, is that who runs this account? I suspect it is, because a percentage of the videos shared are from him. They regularly are trying to blur the line between anti-Zionism and anti-Judaism while sharing videos of speeches from anti-Zionist rabbis. Zero transparency, an absolute scam of an account. All right, what's going on here? She wasn't sure. I haven't looked into it, but that's a possibility. So again, going to their page at GBC_press, they've gained 4,000 followers since yesterday when I started looking into this. They were at 110,000. All right. And again, they are regularly, that's interesting that this one's pinned, this Mark Ruffalo one. Right. But Dolly Parton, they'll share anything that will get them rage bait. From GBC, here's one from Infogram. Doug Ford. Isn't Doug Ford dead? Pretty sure he died. Or is it Rob that died, his brother? Canadians in the chat, help me out here. I don't think he still runs Ontario, does he? Or Toronto? He was the mayor of Toronto for a while. As you can tell, I'm not a fan of this outlet. All right. And speaking of propaganda factories, one of them decided for some reason to step on their own dick, whatever you want to call it, though there's a woman. Data Republican, small r, quote unquote. Gen X girl had talked about her a long time ago. I had dismissed it. She was trying to be like a researcher that literally just looked at numbers wang from the Republican side. Because there really aren't people that do that level of analytics and propaganda. So Village Crazy Lady, who has issues of her own, she's a big Joe Kent fan, which I have major issues with, but she's also been heavily pro-Palestine and pro-children, points out that so Data Republican, who already brings in like $28,000 a month in Twitter monthly subscriptions at $3 a piece, plus whatever she gets paid in ad share, is now also bringing home a government paycheck via the Department of War. Yeah. The Department of War is paying influencers a literal government salary. Unbelievable. How this came out, I have no idea. The fact that it came out from the AF Post, which we know is run by Ali Alexander, connected to Nick Fuentes, is also a glaring red flag. All right, so this is just Republican douchebag infighting. But Jenica Pounds, a.k.a. Data Republican, a Department of War employee, alleges that Undersecretary of State Sarah Rogers is attempting to entrap her by providing her with info to leak under the guise of offering her a scoop. It's crazy. This whole story is crazy. Right? And she asks, how is the Department of War literally paying influencers? This is the whole story. I didn't want to get into the whole thing, but it is a crazy story. That the Pentagon confirmed that she's getting paid to spread their propaganda bullshit. Unreal. So that was my little investigation, again, into this GBC_press. If you see somebody sharing this, they're probably sharing a years old video that was passed off as happening now. That's what they do. And I've seen people, friends of mine sharing it. I've seen independent content creators sharing it because it fits the narrative and it's rage bait and it's designed to get you angry and go, yeah, I want to share that too. Take a second. Look at who they're sharing. Look at when the video is from. Take an extra second. And that prevent yourself from getting egg on your face. That is my plea, my word of advice, because they're watching. So block them. And if you want to report them for being spam, you're welcome to. And you can see again about this account, West Asia. All right, which could be a VPN, but West Asia is the way they're covering up based in Israel now. Because it could be Jordan, it could be Syria, it could be anywhere, right? Could be Saudi Arabia, sure. Could be anywhere. Yes, Steven Semler, who does Polygraph, correct. He's paywalled, but some of his stuff is posted to the Brown University Cost of War website. Yeah, Rob Ford, definitely dead. His brother is Ontario Premier. Okay. So, yeah, okay. So he is still alive, that Ford. Or wait, was that Rob Ford or was that the other Ford? Where is it? I gotta go back. I'm looking for it again. I lost it. Oh well. I think it's further down this way. It's all slop. It's all slopaganda. Don't consume it. Block it. Move on. Dismiss it. And try to nicely educate the people that are sharing this. Be like, hey, this is not a legitimate news outlet. These literally are clowns and trolls that were trying to say this donkey will get more likes than Netanyahu and getting embarrassed over it. Now, sadly, again, it gives Zionists the chance to laugh about this. Ha, ha, ha. It's not going to do that. And we win. No, nobody wins. We all lose. So that's GBC Media, GBC Press. They're nonsense. They're bullshit. Dismiss that. But we are not nonsense. We are not bullshit. So support independent media because we are solely user-funded and transparent. That this is the only people that has supported our network. Right there. Cash App, $, Indie News Network. co-fi.com/Indie News Network. Over on Substack at IndieMediaToday.com and at INNNewsletter.com for the network that we're members of. And at IndieNewsNow.com. It's the name of the show. It's also the name of a news website where a lot of these stories that you can find. GBC Press, you will not find because they don't even have a corporate website. They don't publish articles. What they do is they republish other people's multi-years old videos and pass them off as their own and breaking news. Fuck those guys. Right. Thank you, Seven Sword. If I can't identify a primary source, I won't share. You are different than the average. All right. Because most people are like, I don't care. It fits. Yes, I agree with it. I don't care where it comes from. A lot of people do. So thank you to everyone who does support. If you're unable to support, I totally understand. Times are super tough. They're squeezing everybody. Share the show. Tell people about what we do. Tell people about Indie News Network. Tell people to unplug from corporate media because it's poisoning their brains. And it makes our work so much harder. Okay. Now we're going to get to our lightning round. This is literally, I'm going to whip through headlines. We'll get to the GoFundMes and we'll cut out of here. So first is about Birthright Citizenship under attack. Okay. I have a small win in a UK court where they're just not trying somebody as a terrorist. And yet that's article worthy at this point. That they're not going to be tried as a terrorist for taking action on behalf of Palestine. Anduril surveying the U.S.-Mexico border. Reef is actually going to do that story tomorrow night on INN News. So I'll just show the headline. And I wanted to mention that over at Unlimited Hangout, Whitney Webb and Mark Goodwin published a new article about Argentina's Peter Thiel. So here are those quick headlines. Again, Left Voice Indie Media Award honoree. All right. Sergei Reisner, I've never heard of this person. All right, that Trump's fight against birthright citizenship seeks to enshrine unequal rights and deepen working class divisions. And I read the first couple of paragraphs of this. Like, this is really interesting. This is good. This is important, but it's too long for me to read on the show. And what this is talking about is that Trump lost his first attempt to gut birthright citizenship, but he's trying again. Earlier this month, he signed 2 new executive orders aiming to narrow the meaning and reach of birthright citizenship. One seeks to expand the categories of children that the administration claims fall outside the protections of the 14th Amendment. The other targets what the White House calls birth tourism. and would increase the government's ability to deny or revoke visas or remove people from the country and punish those it claims entered the United States for the purposes of giving birth. Unless they decide, of course, to buy one of his $5 million golden visas, which don't really exist. So read this article. This is just the beginning of it. Again, this is a long article that I thought was worthy of your attention. Second, another Indie Media Award honoree at Declassified, and one that actually made me sad because it seems celebratory in nature, that the Barclays Five, remember the Filton Six, were tried as terrorists for spraying paint, putting paint at an Elbit Systems thing, something about a hammer attack. There was a lot of questions about that. They ended up being convicted, and then after they were tried and convicted, the judge sentenced them with a terrorism sentencing. Well, here they won't be tried, at least, as terrorists, right? So, in this case, the judge ruled that the damage caused during a protest at the bank branch wasn't enough to merit terrorism sentencing. Now, that's what the judge says now. If they end up convicted, I don't even know if it's this judge that would end up carrying out that sentence or issuing one. So here are people in support outside the Preston Crown Court, where they were celebrating the fact that 5 activists who broke windows and threw red paint at Barclays Bank branch in protest over Israel's genocide in Gaza will not be sentenced as terrorists. So they were found guilty. Judge Robert Altham told a packed room in Preston Crown Court on Friday the damage the activists caused with their August 2024 direct action protests in Burnley was significant. However, he was not satisfied that it met the statutory measures of serious damage required under the Terrorism Act. Visibly relieved, the defendants filed out of the tense courtroom to a gathering of family and friends who cheered and clapped. That meant their sentences wouldn't be doubled. But it doesn't mean that they're not going to be convicted and sentenced. They're not sentenced as terrorists. One of those was 70 years old. 28, 31, 28, 31, and 70 convicted of criminal damage this June over the August 2024 protest, which caused about £200,000 worth of damage. What? Because they had to have a new sign made and have the glass cleaned? £200,000? In the agreed facts of the case, the prosecution's lawyers acknowledged that at the time of the protest, Barclays did provide investments and loans to Elbit, Israel's largest arms firm. 2 months later, it was reported that Barclays sold all its Elbit shares. So maybe the move kind of was effective, or at least Barclays knew that it was in the wrong. The action was carried out in the name of Palestine Action almost a year before the group was banned under terrorism laws and proscribed as a terror group, and before it was illegal to be a member or supporter of the group, which no longer exists. It was disbanded. It was only after the trial concluded that the presiding judge, Philip Parry, said he intended to consider whether to apply a terrorist connection when sentencing the defendants, just to throw extra charges and extra punishment on them. This came again after that landmark decision, like I said days earlier, to sentence 4 Palestine Action activists convicted of criminal damage as terrorists over their own direct action protests at an Elbit Systems site in Filton, near Bristol. It was the first time in British legal history that direct action protesters convicted of criminal damage were sentenced as terrorists, a move that human rights groups warn was a misuse of counterterrorism powers. Again, more to this article. Go read this over at Declassified. Again, the headline I'm going to show you, and the first, just the caption underneath it, because you're going to watch tomorrow night, and Reef is going to read this over on INN News at 9 o'clock Eastern tomorrow night here on Indie News Network. Peter Thiel funded company Anduril to triple the number of autonomous surveillance towers along the U.S.-Mexico border. The expansion of autonomous surveillance towers will come at a cost of $1 billion to the American taxpayer, funds that were originally allocated under Trump's Big Brother bill. But remember that we reported that Homeland Security is sitting on a $100 billion unspent war chest. So that's 1% of that war chest going to Anduril, again, lining Peter Thiel's buddy's pockets and giving him more power and control, and I'm sure access to the Anduril cameras that will be monitoring the border. And of course, Anduril will then get contracts to monitor and surveil the border and operate those cameras on behalf of Homeland Security. So that billion is just building the towers, let alone the cost of actually monitoring them. And then finally, like I mentioned, Whitney Webb and Mark Goodwin over at Unlimited Hangout published a new article, about Argentina's Elon Musk. And now, I'm sorry, I thought it was Peter Thiel. It was Argentina's Musk, bringing technocracy to Patagonia. It's the same type of shit. Malaysia administration has been showcasing Patagonia to Silicon Valley executives, culminating in OpenAI's Stargate Argentina announcement. The focus of this piece, Emiliano Cargamon, is the man actually developing OpenAI's Argentine project and boasts significant ties to U.S. military and intelligence, NASA, Palantir, and the Silicon Valley stalwarts that help privatize space. Just wonderful. Again, I'm not going to read this. It's a 40-minute read, which means if I were to read it on the show, it'd probably be about 1.5 times that. And I'm not going to read that. So I'm going on vacation this week. So you guys can go ahead and read it. I'll link it in the description. So that was our lightning round. Cool. Got through that pretty quick. Support independent media. Again, we need it more than ever. Really appreciate everyone who does. Those are the people who already have. If you want to help fund this media, we could use it. Cash App, $ Indie News Network, ko-fi.com. That's ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. Our website is IndieNewsNow.com. We've got a Stripe link up there. Okay, INNnewsletter.com and IndieMediaToday.com over on Substack. Yeah, Jesus Lord help us is correct. Dude is just setting out to be the most evil person in history, and we have his puppet one heart attack away from the U.S. office. Another good article that Dissent had written about J.D. Vance, one heart attack away. Go check that out. All right. So we got GoFundMe stuff, and then we can get out of here. We do GoFundMes every week. These are friends and family of the show and efforts that we believe are worthy causes of supporting if you're able to. As we know, we've been reporting since the end of May. Our friend Will, who was an original supporter when we founded INN 5 years ago, he's been with us since day one. He told us in May that his wife was diagnosed with breast cancer and that her hours were cut and they were losing their insurance. They have since gotten to a hospital that is willing to give them treatment without being insured and not billing them. And I believe it's some kind of a Catholic charity that's handling that. But in the meantime, Will also had like a physical thing, and he wrecked his car, so he couldn't even do DoorDash. All right. And he said back mid-month, even just sharing helps. So what happened the other day is that he told me privately that he was starting trade school, and he put up a tweet about it. I start trade school tomorrow at age 48, and I'm petrified. And this took off and went viral. It got 11,000 likes, over 1,200 replies. All right. And he said he was just talking into the void, didn't expect that. Definitely didn't expect all the kindness and support. So how was your first day in this new apprenticeship? All right. Luckily, they have a night HVAC program, so they're able to drive her to the appointments because she had chemo this week. All right. Thursday's going to be harder. She has a doctor's appointment and chemo Thursday. Going to be a lot of driving, but he should be used to it after DoorDash. Just reminding him, hey, we're still talking about this. We're still talking about you. We have not forgotten about you, and you're in our hearts and in our thoughts every single week and talked about on this show. And we're telling people to help. We're asking people to help, and that we need this help. And again, if you're able to, I'm going to put a link to the GoFundMe for Elizabeth's breast cancer fundraiser in the chats. So thank you to anyone who's able to do that. Again, if you're unable to, I totally understand. 41 years old, diagnosed, spread to the lymph nodes. And this was back in May. Fuck cancer. 32 donors. Where are they at now? They were at 4,300 or so last I checked. Haven't checked them out. 4,350. So while they did get a lot of people looking, it doesn't look like it translated to very much, unfortunately, in the way of GoFundMe support. Additionally, we have contributed already as a network to this GoFundMe, and we'll probably do it again. Okay. Yeah, spreading to lymph nodes again is not good. But it just depends upon how many lymph nodes as well. If they can get it early. And allegedly they did detect early. I see our friend Cowboy Kitty is doing his name change thing. His sister-in-law, Natalia, has been in ICE detention now for, 15, 16 months? The Cent wrote an article about this when she was first taken prisoner and arrested on suspicion of DUI, which she wasn't. They impounded her car. That came out and got out even faster than she did because, well, ICE isn't paying the local county per day to keep her locked up as she is pending appeal, though she's been ordered to be deported to her home country of Ukraine in spite of the fact that she has asylum. It's a terrible story. I feel awful about it. Again, if there's anything that anybody can do to support this campaign, back in April, Kitty had talked with her on the phone and scribbled down some notes, which he sent me, and I put up screen caps of those notes and tried to break them down and read through exactly what those notes said. They were not good. She wasn't getting adequate food. Nobody there spoke her language. A lot of the people there spoke either English or Spanish. And that there were definitely sexual things that were going on there, but she wasn't comfortable talking about a lot of it. Okay. And according to Kitty, they're not even giving her medical care. So we need to get her out of there. Is the bottom line. Third person we talk about every week is our friend Aspen and her mother, Halo Benson. So far, no news is good news. But Aspen was in the wrong place at the wrong time, a passenger in an RV that was stopped by police and found to have mass quantities of drugs, and Aspen, along with everyone else in the vehicle, was charged with trafficking, though she had no knowledge that the drugs were even in the vehicle. We did a live stream fundraiser. Dissent wrote an article explaining this whole thing. I did a one-on-one with them. There's a lot of material to catch up with if you want to learn more about this story. And you can support Aspen by either donating to her GoFundMe or to purchasing some of her artwork, which you can access by this link tree, linktr.ee/justice and the number 4 Aspen. Okay. And that's the link to that. And finally, I wanted to, of course, as I mention every week, get your sunflowers out for our sister Shanda. The Shanda Master Fuck Cancer collection of t-shirts with her likeness on it from the Indie Media Awards, illustration by Zago Brothers with her years of life, 1974 to 2026. We lost her at 52 years old in April of this year. Sadly, it was 2 years ago last week when she was first diagnosed with small cell lung cancer. And just 2 short years later, sadly enough, we're memorializing her with a shirt and a tank top and a hoodie. And any proceeds that we get, profits over and above our cost, is going to go to cancer charity. And as I remind everyone every week, Shanda was an Indie Media Award honoree for her excellence as a live streamer and a podcaster, class of 2023. And if you go to indiemediaawards.substack.com, you can access the shop right from there and pick up the merch and access all the social medias and watch some of her old content and remember her and honor her. And there's her with her brother, her best friend Oz, who memorialized her this weekend. It was also Oz's birthday. Shout out and happy birthday to my brother Oz, who asked people to share and honor Shanda in honor of his own birthday. Yeah, a rest in power to our sister Shanda. Love you, miss you. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that, hey, there's an INN calendar. This is an interactive live calendar. And I update this every week and ongoing throughout the week. And this is all of the live stream. And I send out a weekly update, but this is updated in real time throughout the week, like I said. So bookmark this and keep coming back to it. And you'll be able to get to all of the live streams, all the clips, and all the articles from all of the INN members. And this goes back historically. So if you want to go back to the first week of August and see both the link to Uncensored Boats, this is an easy, fast way to get to every INN live stream from one central location. All right, this is a website that I built using Canva. Pretty cool. So yeah, please subscribe to this, support, bookmark this. It's not even something you can subscribe to. I'm working on getting this page embedded in the IndieNewsNow website so you could then scroll through it, but I don't know how that would work exactly. I did want to mention though, that, there's a screen cap of this in the Friday INN newsletter that goes out with the weekly update and a link to the current version of this every Friday. So just subscribe to INN newsletter. You'll get an email sent to you on Friday that will have a link to this website. But I also am going to drop that link in the chats for everyone. So if you want to go there, bookmark it, you're welcome to. All right. I think I'm done. Yeah. Hey, how about that? Right on time. This was a good show. I thank everyone for hanging out with me. Fuck Israel, as usual. Support independent media because we need it more than ever. I'm not going to be around next week. Thursday, I am going to do a show with Jesse. There will be no Indie News Now live Tuesday night. I may put a clip show together. I'm thinking about it. I haven't decided what I'm going to do or if I'm just going to take the night off and give someone else the slot and have nothing up. So either way, thank you to everyone who supports this channel, who subscribes, who shares, who tells everyone they know. And again, support independent media because we need it more than ever.
That's what she said.
I know that. And I'll see you soon, fam. No! We just fucking lost the stream!
Who are these people?
I think I liked it better being blind when I couldn't read between the lines and when I couldn't see the cracks in the structure that lay bare before me the whole time. I think I liked it better back when I suspended disbelief and swallowed pride. I thought I knew the difference in the red from the blue, but they both bleed us so dry. They both bleed us so dry.
My favorite songs don't hit the same way. I get to the end of a 4-minute track and I'm only looking back thinking, what did they actually say? So
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want?